I love how you describe like the messaging that we're getting, and this is so much your area of expertise is the message that people get about food, and especially when it pertains to ultra processed foods. And like I'm going through a seminar series that I'm preparing that I'm going to be doing in my neighborhood. Hopefully people show up for it. Where I'm going to be talking to people about all aspects of nutrition. We're going to do it the same day for all weeks during the summer. And I'm really trying to be diet agnostic. I don't necessarily want to tell everybody they have to do the keto diet, they have to do the carnivore diet, they have to eat in a certain way. But it's interesting when you consider some of the things that we talk about in nutrition, you kind of get backed into a corner where there's not very many like viable options of good foods that you can eat. And almost by default, you're kind of eating a low carb carnivore diet if you want to have really good health in so many different aspects. And it seems to me that the biggest antithesis to that is the ultra processed foods. So can you tell us a little bit about how we define ultra processed foods and why the messaging around these foods has been so poor for so long?
Yeah. So what is an ultra processed food? It's a bit of a mouthful. I'm not sure if families are using those terms. I think they're still using terms like fast food, junk food, sweets, cakes. A dietitian type world talk would call it discretionary foods, but it's foods that are in a packet predominantly. They have labeling. If they have like health food claims, health messaging, they're probably trying to sell you ultra processed foods. So ultra processed foods have got generally more than 5 ingredients. They have ingredients that you would not be able to buy locally, and you would not be able to process them in the same way. So you would not be able to replicate that product in your own kitchen with normal kitchen equipment. So it's typically mass produced through processing that we would not be able to do at home with ingredients we would not be able to buy at home, and often just pick up anything your listeners might be near in a shop or in a supermarket or something that kids have brought home in a packet, and you'll be able to spot ingredients that you just would not be able to buy, but you wouldn't maybe able to pronounce. And we don't fully actually know what they are as well, those ingredients. I think that's the key thing in a packet and too many ingredients and does not look like the original ingredients. So like an example might be corn is an unprocessed corn on the cob is an unprocessed food, and then you move that on and you've got popcorn, minimally processed, and then you're moving it on to minimally processed, maybe a sweet, and then you go up and up the line to more processed. So then you're looking at an ultra processed food out of corn would be a type of cereal, like do you have Rice Krispies or Rice Pops over there?
Yeah.
Something like that. And then the corn chips as well. And then you've got the fructose, the corn syrups and things as well. So that's an example of how we get an ingredient, and then we take it all the way through extraction, extrusion and heating, and then baking, and then with the cereals and the chips, then we're coating it with chemical crap and flavoring it, and then packing it, sometimes with a nice healthy looking picture of corn on it to show that once upon a time might have had some nutritional value in it. And then often we being the manufacturers, and it's being allowed by the governments, they're then fortifying it with synthetic nutrients and vitamins, and then selling it as a product fit for human consumption. But not only that, it's being sold as something that's actually of value to us nutritionally. And the more and more evidence that comes out, and thank goodness for the researchers that put these huge studies together, and it takes such a long time, they've been pushing the information that that really should be obvious to us, that this stuff is really detrimental to health. And it is. It's just, that's the key thing here, that we're in a huge wave of chronic ill health, metabolic ill health, mental ill health, and we've got fundraisers that are earning millions and millions of pounds in institutions looking for the solution everywhere under every rock going. But our supermarkets are pushing this stuff to us and selling the stuff that's actually making us ill, our children's ill, and our mums ill. So yeah, it's quite an odd world when you take a huge step back and look at it. And your second part of that question was what's gone wrong with the marketing, the messaging, and how, you know, how we got to this stage, that type of thing. I guess really looking back from the 50s, the marketing was actually convenience food when it first came out. Don't know if you'll find this interesting, Casey, but it wasn't popular. It did not take off. It wasn't as people often refer to it, as a quick thing that people took to, and women were so happy with. They were families generally en masse were mistrusting of these new food products, so they went to the food, not the food, they went to the marketeers and the advertisements, and they started to learn what type of messaging would work, and they sold convenient food products as better for families, better for the health. If you wanted to do the right thing for your family, you would you would have these new gadgets, this new equipment, and this new type of food in your home, and they did a good job. And and there was also, and there is also, the convenient element. We now have families, and how busy everybody is, how busy we are, for example, we were discussing, and we are time poor. So we've got to a point where it's really difficult to actually unravel this now, even when people know it's harmful. It's so culturally part of their upbringing, part of their what the work colleagues are eating, what they're having in schools, what their kids' friends are having, that it's so difficult to unravel. It's almost easier to just put the blinkers back on and hope one of these major charities are going to uncover a cure suddenly.
Yeah. No, it's so interesting. Excuse me. When you talk about it as like you see the front of the package of cold cereal is a great example. I walked through the cold cereal aisle about a week ago. I don't normally walk through the cold cereal aisle, but to check out like which cereals have the labels that say they're heart healthy, they're high in fiber, they have vitamins and minerals and all these things. The normal consumer is not going to flip that around and know how to read the ingredients when we have like 80 something different names of sugar, and people don't understand the harms of seed oils and how these things are processed, let alone all the chemicals and dyes and all the stuff that goes into it. They just see the front and it says, oh, this is heart healthy, or this has this amount of fiber. That's a minuscule amount versus all the sugar and crap that they get. And then just to think about the addictive nature of that kind of food and how unsatisfying it is, how it doesn't satiate anybody. It forces people into eating again and again and again and again, and it just compounds the problem, makes things so much worse.
Yeah, and then, like you're saying, we're in that loop, and then we have that disconnect with the chronic ill health, and how weight gain and certain diagnoses start creeping in as we go through our 30s and 40s and 50s, and then people putting that all down to aging. But now we're seeing that children, we've been seeing this increase over years, overweight children, obesity in children in America. It's absolutely shocking statistics. And then we have other issues. We have stunting. So we've got children that are underweight and they're malnourished but overfed with these foods, because the body reacts in different ways. You can be malnourished and overweight, but you can be malnourished and underweight. In the UK and in the US, actually, children are not meeting their height growth potential. So they've done studies and they've looked at this, and children in some European countries that have a high meat and dairy intake of 7 centimeters taller than US children and UK children, and wow, because of the quality of food. I think that's a really unknown fact. I think we often put this, often the public and often people think about this in terms of, with sugar and processed food and junk food, in terms of a weight issue alone. But the fact that children aren't meeting their height potential, I think it's really telling about the quality of what they're eating, and also the type of foods that they're eating, and more importantly, they're not eating, and we're being kind of advised not to. And then other things like, you know, in America particularly, but other countries definitely, like Australia's hot on the heels, and so is the UK, like rates of diagnosis for different types of conditions like ADHD and ADD. The prescription rate in Australia has gone through the roof of people having prescriptions for medications. And that's definitely, again, linked to, I mean, they call it linked to lifestyle, but if we break down what we mean by lifestyle, food is a major component of those issues.